My name again is Russ Derry, and I'm the Director of Education for Epilepsy Foundation of Michigan. And today's Learn and Share conference call is entitled Epilepsy in the Teenage Years. And we're very fortunate to have a panel of adults with epilepsy who also had epilepsy as teens. And they'll be sharing their experiences and insights regarding what it was like to be a teenager with epilepsy, and then answering any questions that you might have. So let's start by having our panelists briefly introduce themselves. Rebecca, did you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about, how long you've had epilepsy, what one of your primary challenges was as a teen with epilepsy, and then what you're doing now? That'd be great.
I got diagnosed when I was 12, and they thought it was juvenile, that I would grow out of it, but never did. So I've had it for 22 years, and I still take my medication for it. Challenges change over time, I think. I think in high school it's hard to not have a license. At least when I was in high school, that seemed like the biggest challenge. And then dating, that was a challenge in college because some people were just afraid of what might happen. So, and now I have a bachelor's in child development from Michigan State, and I have a master's in social work, and I am mother of 4, and stay at home to raise my children and have an in-home daycare. So that's what I do now.
Great. Thank you. Well, Juanita, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Juanita Buzik, and I was diagnosed when I was 9 years old with complex partial. The doctor, they assumed I would outgrow it, but I never did. They became more frequent and complex, and they turned into tonic, or Grand Mal, it was known at the time. And I've been on for treatment for 39 years. They have been under control since 2002 through a miracle. And challenges I faced, they changed. As Rebecca said, they changed over time. But the main thing when I was younger was I didn't want people to see it. It wasn't that I was ashamed. It was more, the more people watched, the more self-conscious I became. So I would hide it.
Right.
And, hide it in the sense of when I would feel it coming on, I'd turn my head. I didn't want people to see how I was starting to get them. And then when I was in my teens, I got my driver's license, and that was, I happened to have the first grand mal seizure, and I didn't want to give my license up.
Right.
So my dad called the doctor, and he asked me to quit, just stop. But I went for a year without having it, and then decided, I'm going to drive. Well, my doctor told me wait a little while just in case, and I'm glad he did because I ended up having another one. And but things were challenging. I ended up pursuing a career. I got my master's degree, and I had to work up the ladder because I faced many challenges where I had lost jobs on the spot just because of a seizure. And people just didn't understand, but I was determined, and I made it.
That's great.
And I have a successful career.
Great, thank you. Eric, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Eric Newstead. I am 44 years old. I have been diagnosed with epilepsy since the 8th grade. I was diagnosed with partial complex seizures. They really didn't kick in until the summer between the 8th and 9th grade. I didn't know what it was at first. I thought it was dizzy spells. But then the summer between junior and high school, great time to get it. I had like 3 within a 4-day period. I had partial complex seizures caused, as I now know, by a brain, I'm not sure, lesion. There's a spot, anyways, on my MRI. I don't know what it is. The doctor's not sure what it is. We know it's not an aneurysm, which is good to know. I do have a bachelor's degree, and I am thinking about pursuing a MSW. And that's something I'm looking into right now, currently. I've worked for 17 years at a law firm. and I'm looking right now, and I've been doing the Camp Discovery for the last 4 years, and also I've been a peer-to-peer support advisor with the Epilepsy Foundation, and I really enjoy doing it.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Andrew Schmalley, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Well, Rebecca and I have something in common. I was also diagnosed when I was 12, and they thought it was something that was going to be juvenile and just pass. It did actually through high school. I was a very good student and athlete, and I was recruited by a college to play college hockey, but my seizures came back in college, and I really struggled. I had to quit hockey. I actually withdrew from that college. I ended up going to Michigan State and graduating with a finance degree. I worked for Smith Barney for a number of years in wealth management, but I always wanted to become a doctor. That was what I had pursued originally, but had to abandon that somewhat because of the seizures. And now that I got my life back on track, especially my health, I went back to school, actually, for the past year and a half. I've been a post back at Wayne State, and I'm applying to med school for next year.
Great. Thank you. And Andrew Quinn, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. I first started having seizures when I was 18 years old. Just after I'd gotten out of high school, I was getting ready to go to college. So I spent 1 year up at Michigan State University, and it's been 5 years now, so I'm 23. I've wound up having 2 surgeries, and so far it's been good. It's been about 8 months since I had my second surgery, and things have been going very well. But it's been difficult trying to go through college, while having seizures. So I'm just taking my time and eventually working towards a business degree. So hopefully, once we're all done with having the seizures, I'll be able to get going and finish up with the degree.
Okay.
And that's about it.
Okay, great.
Eric? Yes,
well, I know this is Clinton. I know I started having seizures when I was a baby at 2 years old. I know the time of my life when I turned 13, they had stopped. But then every turn, I have them now. But then I go to high school and everything. I ain't let it stop me from doing nothing. They might ask me to play on the football team, but I can't, the head contact, can't play football. But still, I would have my friends on the football team, basketball team, everything. Even went to school, Maurice Taylor from Henry Ford, was out in the NBA.
Great.
Wow.
Someone had a question, I believe?
Yeah, who had just, was it Eric? Somebody was speaking about business degree?
That was me, Andrew.
Oh, Andrew, yeah. Sometime if you want, give me, you can give me an email. I work at Tagon with the government, and a lot of times they have internships if you're going for a degree in business.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I can see if I can see anything out. There is a freeze right now, but they do hire, and depending on the degree and things like that and getting in, and how much money we're given and stuff like that, they'll help pay for your education.
Wow, that would be awesome.
Without being reimbursed, or without you having to reimburse them, and you'll have a job.
Is this Juanita speaking?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
So
what I can my email.
Yeah, after the call, I can exchange your emails or email you both with that information. If that's all right.
That would be awesome. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Great.
Just specify on the subject that so I don't think it's spam and
right. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just basically ask some questions of the panel, and if you're a panelist and you have some ideas or that you want to contribute, just go ahead and jump right in and respond. Let's see. For those of you who can remember being diagnosed with epilepsy, talk a little bit about what that was like, and then what helped you eventually to come to terms with the fact that you had epilepsy? Was that a difficult process, or was it something you came to terms with pretty quickly?
That was something I came pretty quickly. At first, I didn't know what it was. All I knew is I had the nausea, and I just said I felt sick. So I really didn't know I had it, but then when I did, it was just something. I don't know. I just came to it quickly. I had it, and that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was sort of the same way. When I first found out that I had it, my first thought was, okay, there's medication. I can take the medication and be fine. And then eventually I've gone through, I think, 5 different medications, and that didn't work. So finally, I got the frustrating, but, then talking to my doctors and my surgeons, knowing that I was able to go into brain surgery, that finally helped me, knowing that, okay, there's one last thing I can do, and that really helped me.
Great. And did anyone struggle with the diagnosis or have difficulty?
When they first, this is Rebecca, when they first told me, I also did not really know what it was or the seriousness of it, but something that they told me then was that I probably would never be able to have children. And, and that was like, I loved children, and I was just devastated by that. So, but clearly they were wrong.
And that was
I remember being 12. I actually remember regaining consciousness. My mom was driving me to the hospital. I threw up in her car. I felt really bad. But I didn't really understand it. I was too young to wrap my head around it. I just sort of saw it was something that made me have to take medicine every day. But when the seizures came back in college and it was something that affected my life, affected who I was, it really made me angry. And it wasn't until I sort of regained my self-identity in terms of finding success elsewhere in life that I came to terms with it and accepted it and moved on.
Well, I know when I was young, like 12 years old, in my early teens, yes, some of my seizures and everything, but hey, I ain't like to let me stop me from doing nothing. I go ahead, go to my grandmother's house and everything, play with my friends and everything. Everybody don't look down at me. I was the head of the crew. And they come my way, hey, what's going on?
Right. So attitude has a lot.
Yeah,
to
this
do
is
with
this is Eric. This is Eric, and I was also diagnosed at about roughly 13, maybe 14, and like many of the other people on the panel, I also wasn't sure what it was at first. It seemed like a dizzy spell, and I had maybe 3 in a row, one of which my parents witnessed, and that was a partial complex. And they had never seen anything quite like it before. They weren't quite sure what it was either. I frankly had no idea. All I knew is it was not anything I'd ever felt before. A dizzy, nauseous feeling, and then it would affect my speech. Actually, it didn't bother me, honestly, and it was more a relief to know what this was. It was like, oh, okay, so that's what this is. Oh, okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not happy, but okay. Now I can at least tell people this is what it is. And so I was able to go on from there. And actually, as somebody else said, I can't remember who it was that just said this, it wasn't until later, maybe college, that, I had a more difficult time going from teenage years to adult years, addressing some more adult issues, and facing some of those things where I had a slightly more difficult time.
Right.
As far as my feeling about it.
Right.
Hey, Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Cindy. I know myself, when I was diagnosed, I was different. I mean, I had a father who was non-compliant with his medication, so I kind of saw the issues of, well, you know, I know I don't want to be like that, but part of me also, when a year or two after I was diagnosed, and I went through a compliance issue where it's, you know, I don't know if it was denial of, I feel better, this is going to go away, but I'm going to cut down my medications. And, you know, that was an issue that sometimes we learn things the hard way, and I swore I would never be like my father, but that was an issue I went through. And finally had to struggle and say, well, listen, this is not going to go away, and you have to find a medication that you will accept and like. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if anybody else ever went through those issues also, but that was something that I had to deal with.
With finding the right medicine?
Well, it was a matter of, you know, the medication I was on, you know, sometimes if you don't like the side effects, it's like, I mean, I was young. It was a mistake, but I tried to cut down on my medication just to say that, oh, you know, I'm going to cut it down myself and see how my, you know, side effects are. And it was a bad lesson to learn. I know there's issues with people being not liking side effects and trying to, you know, not be compliant with their medication because of the side effects. And that's something that I struggled with for a while. But it was a terrible lesson to learn. And I learned that, you know, everybody has struggles, and every medication that you take, it's a matter of, you know, what's worse, the seizures or the medication? And obviously the seizures worse. And I think talking to other people and realizing that, yeah, I feel this way, but believe me, you feel worse when the seizures happen. So,
well, I was just thinking, at my freshman year in school, I went to one high school by the name of Cody, and then people would mess around me, you know, I knocked the mess out of them. I might have seized, but I let them know. And I ain't no little fella to play around with. And I transferred out of that school, though. In school, I went to Ford. I was fine. We had plenty of people there. Everything, no problems at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So what were some other challenges that people had related to your treatment? Cindy mentioned side effects, and because of the side effects not being compliant, did anyone have other difficulties like remembering to take your medicines or just frustrations that it wasn't working, other types of challenges?
Excuse me, Russ.
Yeah.
Well, me, I have memories of taking my medication. That's why I'm glad they can't, you know, they have these cases out. Like I even have a case now, Monday through Friday.
Right.
And then you have all medication in there. And then I just kind of look, you know, see any dose or something, just kind of look right there in the case, all right, everything taken care of.
Well, I have, I would forget, I had a habit. I'm so used to it. It's like, oh, did I take it? And then I would be afraid, oh, if I take it, I'll be taking a double dose. So I I just started, as I would take it, then I would put the one I took it right away, then I would put the medicine ready for the morning. So if I took it, I would just go look in that cup. And if the medicine's in that cup, I knew I took it. So I was okay.
Good idea.
Finding that system that works for you, that makes you trust your memory, you know?
Yeah, because it's habit that I do it without thinking. So I had to do that. But the hardest thing that happened, that I went through for years, but I had no choice because it was all that helped me, was Tegretol at the time. And the side effects were just awful.
Oh, I agree.
Oh, double vision, nausea. People think you're on something. You can't walk a straight line.
Now, this is Eric Newstead. I take Tegretol, and I'm fine.
Are you taking Tegretol XR?
No.
Okay.
Just regular Tegretol, and I'm fine.
Oh, that's great. See, it affected me, but it was the only thing that stopped. It was the only thing that controlled them the best.
Yeah.
And Eric, I was on Tegretol for years.
Yeah.
And it was I liked the medication too. I mean, I didn't have, but I was on regular rather than XR. And you know, it's hard to switch medications, but I had to because I started developing a sodium problem. But You never know what you're like on a medication until you're off it and on another one.
Really, it was
sometimes the grass is always greener.
Right.
That's right.
Well, the Tegretol helped me. The XR. It didn't make the seizures stop or go away, but the thing is, I didn't have the side effects. So that made a big difference.
That's good. What I was about to say, see.
Pardon?
Well, about me, when I was younger, my doctor just had me on too much medicine, and then all that children's hospital, see, and then I'm no girl, but the neurologist I got with and everything I'm with now, Russell, I'm talking about Dr. Watson, he cut things down. And he finally found my main medication, the Dilan.
Well, to speak to the remembering medicine, I got used to using one of those Sunday through Saturday pill jars, and as I became more religious with a lifestyle, doing everything the same way every day, it's become a near flawless tactic. And if you have that laid out, I go through it, and on Sunday night, which is for me the last day of my week in that pill container, that night when I take my last dose, I refill it through the whole week. So I can see it every day. If that pill is still in there, obviously I haven't taken it. If it's not, then I have taken it. And that's a system that has worked well for me. And I think if you become religious with a habit, it was suggested doing it another way, then you'll find a way to become near perfect in remembering to take your medicine. We're creatures of habit.
Right.
Yeah, I also do it the same way. I have a container set up, and then just to make sure, I always set an alarm on my phone, just to remind me, just in case.
I gotta love technology.
An alarm that goes off for my morning, afternoon, and evening pills, and it helps. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So we're when you were teens dealing with epilepsy, how involved were you in your treatment as teenagers? Were you responsible for taking your own medications, for tracking your seizures, for reporting your side effects to your doctor? And if you were involved in your care, did that help? Did that give you an added sense of control or help you in any other ways?
Well, really, I had nothing to worry about that because my mother, she's in the medical field. Okay.
Yeah. I had a lot of help with my parents at the time. So I just had to, be honest with it. I know my dad, he kept, a report with all the information on there, so it helped. They did a little bit of both, but I just had to remember to be honest, and make sure we did keep track of everything.
Right.
Yeah, I had to do mine. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody talking?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I had learned at 9 years old when I was first diagnosed, I learned to take them on my own because in the beginning, maybe at first, my parents or my mother would ask me, well, did you take, she'd have me take it. She was very, watched out, very good. Then suddenly I would start having them, and they'd ask, well, did you take them? And I would say, well, no, I forgot. So it was more of a thing. If I didn't take them, I was going to have them. So I remembered.
That's good.
And it just became a habit throughout my life, and I felt in control. I let them know when I was running out, and so I never felt any different. In other words, I felt that I was in control of my life.
Well, that is good. It took it like that. Because I remember I was younger. I would go to the hospital. I would tell them, I go to the hospital. They'd look at me like, what in the world? You know all that, but you don't play about your medicine. You really be on top of yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was pretty much on top of my medication as well. My father and mother, they would remind me, did you take your pills? Not a problem. Yes, I did. I would forget as occasionally as anybody would. We're human, and especially when you're a teenager. But I was always pretty religious about taking my pills, whether they were at home or if I had to take three doses a day. if I had to take them at school. I think I just took them twice a day, if I'm not mistaken. And I was pretty much in charge of it. And like the others have said, right from the beginning, including right up to today, the Sunday to Saturday pill boxes are invaluable. You know, as much as a pain as it is to fill it up, but still, immediately if you forgot something. And, as busy as life is, you might not realize you forgot. And again, all of us here that have it will all understand this. After a while, you get so used to taking it that it becomes second nature. And then it's like, did I take them? Yeah, I took them. And then you're like, well wait a minute, did I? Did I or didn't I? And then you'll look and you'll be like, yes, I did. And 9 times out of 10, you did. So.
I'll call my husband from work and ask him to look in the cup and the glass I have by the bed and ask him to see if I took them. Because I'll forget and I'll go be ready to walk out of the door and I think, did I take them? And I go look and see they're gone, so I'm fine.
Yeah, when in doubt.
Right. So as far as we've talked a little bit about taking medications. What about other health-related behaviors? Which health-related behaviors did you find most helpful in managing your seizures and your overall health? Things like getting enough sleep, or exercising, or avoiding alcohol, things like that. And then which were most harmful in your experience, and like staying up late, or eating poorly, or forgetting to take your medications? What were your lessons that you learned in terms of behaviors in managing your seizures?
Well, I learned everything upon taking my medicine. That's why I got the cases now and everything.
Right.
So I wouldn't take too much and everything, overdose on nothing.
Right.
I think in the social situation, the challenge is when you're in a social situation and party and everybody is drinking. And the pressure sometimes that you get from other people who don't understand or you haven't disclosed was hard, is somewhat hard to take. But, without explaining to them, listen, I can't drink. And I think that is a little bit tough, but, it doesn't bother me too much anymore. But that was something that I think he struggled with. At least I struggled with when I was younger. So.
Yeah, in the beginning for me, we eventually learned that I had triggers for my seizures. Like if I didn't get enough sleep, or if I exercised too much, or if I had too much stress, that those things would cause me to have a seizure. So eventually I just had to learn, to be very careful, be in bed, by a certain time, eat enough, don't be starving, just making sure, I avoided the things that I knew would cause me to have seizures, the triggers.
Yeah, Andrew, that's a good point, because I was warned about those things too, and it was always important for me to get good sleep, and that especially because I had seizures when I woke up. And it's kind of off the topic, or not really off the topic, but it's something that leads into leading a healthy lifestyle. But I found that time management and being able to manage your day really well is the best thing for being able to lead a healthy lifestyle and finding the right routine, because if you're making the most of your time with studying and making sure that you get whatever chores you need to get done in the proper time, and when bedtime comes, we might be older, but still, we're like kids, we have a bedtime. You got to go to sleep, and you got to get your rest. You got to make most of your day. When you manage your time properly and develop that routine, then all of those other things fall into place in my experience.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And time management is also obviously important in reducing stress. If you have a routine and a schedule and you manage your time well, there's going to be a lot less stress in terms of, what do I have to do now? What do I have to do now? And worrying about
Sure.
that type of thing. So,
I noticed.
Go ahead.
Oh, I noticed a difference. I love to drink my pop. I loved pop. That was my favorite. And I would drink pop with my medicine. Well, I wondered if that had any effect. But, no, I liked it. I wasn't going to worry about it. So I went years having them. Then one day I decided, I remembered my cousin did an experiment for school. And she took a penny and she let it sit in Coke, plain old Coke. Well, that's what I used to drink was Coke, and it showed what it did. So I'd have Coke or oranges and grapefruit, whatever. Well, the problem was I took it with my medicine. So I often wonder, was that acid actually eating up the medicine, the pill, when I put it in my mouth? Kind of like if you put an Alka-Seltzer in the water. And what was odd was, or not odd, but it probably was, I one day decided cold turkey in 2002, I am not going to drink any more pop. And the seizures stopped.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't had any since 2000. And, you know, that the year before that, it was in 2001, I had a closed head injury, and they didn't know if I was going to make it. So I was bleeding in the brain, the skull, everything.
Was that regular Coke, or was that regular or Diet Coke?
Regular, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it was just the only thing I could think of was I'm taking it, and suddenly, like I said, an Alka-Seltzer, it's going to start sizzling. So if I'm drinking it with it, so I'm sorry, I only asked that just because the Diet Coke contains a thing called aspartame, which can go on to trigger seizures. No. Right, I know about that. I don't take anything with aspartame, NutraSweet, any kind of diet sugar, because I know when I was in my teens, that was a big thing that came out was aspartame causing seizures.
Yeah.
How about your caffeine intake in relationship? Did you cut down your caffeine intake? Out of curiosity?
Coke has tons of caffeine.
Yeah,
right. But I try to avoid I'll just, if I am drinking Coke or soda, I always try and make sure it gets the caffeine free.
What I do with if say I want to have an orange or grapefruit or anything acidy, I take the medicine, but I wait at least 2 to 3 hours after I take the medicine to make sure it's into my system, and then I'll take it. And I haven't had any problems ever since I started doing that.
Me taking medicine,
go ahead.
Excuse me, taking medicine, I just eat something to coat my stomach good and everything, and drink some water. And like I said, my mother's a medical, but she even told me this myself. You're going to put something on your stomach and take the medicine, it's fine. Your stomach can be coated.
Right. So really, there's very little actual evidence linking any specific food or drink or beverage or dietary substance to seizures. So that doesn't mean though that there aren't links. So the best thing really is if you suspect that something is triggering seizures, whether there's evidence that it does or not, and you're willing to do a little experiment like you did, and it works, then that's really all you need to know. And whether or not there's concrete evidence to suggest that yes, this causes seizures or this triggers seizures or this interferes with anti-epileptic medications. Use your common sense, and if you notice that there's a pattern, like whenever I have this, I have more seizures, then try stopping whatever that thing is. So.
Yeah, the thing is, I didn't know if that was it, the Coke.
Right.
I had no idea. I just started thinking, well, maybe it's burning it up, because I remember I had problems with my stomach, and the doctor says, oh, don't drink Coke, don't do this, it burns the interior lining. And I thought, well, maybe that's what's going on with my pills. It was just analyzing, thinking about it, and I just decided and cold turkey, and they just quit. So I don't know if it was a miracle or if it was that.
Right. Well, and we may never know, but the important thing is it worked. And you tried
and I'm not going back to it.
Exactly.
Right. I'm going to go back. I'm not going to experiment.
Right. So depression and anxiety disorders are actually quite common in teens with epilepsy. Did anyone experience any mental health issues related to epilepsy, and if so, how did you address those?
Oh, I experienced that. That was terrible. I used to get, when you would go into, I would get seizures, and I would get them within clusters. So they would start maybe little, like I get like deja vus and aura, and they gradually kind of increase, gradually day by day, kind of like going up the hill. And then what it did was I would get this fear at night for no reason. And then it was like somebody's around the corner watching me. And this only occurred during these seizure clusters. And this happens to a lot of people that I've spoken with. And you're afraid somebody's in the house watching you, but you know realistically they're not. Common sense tells you nobody's there. And it's just this night thing, kind of like the boogeyman's going to come. When you're a kid, you believe it. But when you're an adult, you know there's no such thing. So that put a lot of, that was just terrible. I couldn't stay alone at night or anything. And, but when the seizures would trigger off, the clusters would gradually go away, then the fear was gone. So that was awful. That was the worst part about having a seizure.
Right.
Having epilepsy was going through that right there.
Right.
It's like I'd rather have a seizure and not go through that fear.
Right, and the fear was probably was a seizure. It was probably a simple partial seizure, and that's a common symptom of simple partial seizures is fear. And you mentioned deja vu being another common one as well. So.
Yeah, well, I had asked a doctor one time. I was getting tested for brain surgery, and Dr. Brian Smith. And
he's my doctor.
Pardon?
I said he's my doctor too.
Oh, okay. Well, he told me he was just testing me for the brain surgery. He wasn't my doctor at the time, but he was part of the surgery testing. And I was just about in tears because I when I first told my first doctor when I was a teenager, he thought I had a mental health issue. Well, I knew I didn't because it only occurred during that time period. But Dr. Smith, who also had epilepsy at an earlier time in his life, told me that there was nothing wrong. Everything was normal, and it was all because it was occurring on the left temporal lobe and the deep part where it affects my emotions, and that's why I was having that.
Right, and you can have autonomic responses during that time that raise your heart rate and give you a somewhat panic feeling. And that could be what Russ, too, was talking about, too. And we don't run around with monitors on our head to say, oh, that's why I'm feeling this. Look at my brainwaves.
Yeah.
It's very hard to go by subjective symptoms alone. But I know myself when I was on one medication, I experienced quite a bit of some depression with that. And then I switched, and it was like night and day when I did switch. And sometimes that can have an effect. And you have to really be, key into, possible causes and good communication with your doctor about what you're feeling. And there's nothing
with parents as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that can probably be a challenging thing as a teen when you're feeling these feelings, and you maybe think, well, maybe I just have to deal with it myself, or you may be reluctant to tell parents, and that's can be a challenge. Is just opening up and letting your parents know that you're feeling this.
Now, my situation, this is Eric, was a little bit different in that I really have not had serious side effects as far as things like that. But as far as depression goes, what happened in my life, actually, in terms of seizures, my mother ended up passing away when I was about 15 or 16, about a year after I was diagnosed. And as terrible as that is, honestly, I say this to people, and I have to be very careful to say this and not be too flip about this, is having her pass away, and she would have passed away, I think, anyways, because she had liver disease, was really good in the sense that it put things in perspective for me. I had a lot of anxiety as a child. I would literally not be able to sleep the night before a test. great concern and great fear. And when she died, see, the seizures were never that big of a deal to me, really. I mean, it's not that they weren't a problem, but, I mean, I wasn't like all self-conscious about them. But then my mom got sick. And that completely put everything into great perspective. And I said, okay, I have seizures, and that's a big deal, but look at this. And my father and I would go visit my mother, who was bleeding to death in the hospital. And that completely put everything into perspective. And so one of the reasons, I guess, why I can speak so calmly about it is for that reason.
Right. So how did people handle telling your peers about epilepsy? Did you tell everyone? Did you tell only your close friends? Did anyone try and hide it from others? How did you deal with that?
Well, I mainly tell everyone because I know I would get, scare people. Like I was even in school, see a situation. I was in my drafting class. And I told my friends, people, not just friends, people, everybody in the class. And then we sitting on the benches and drawing and everything. I almost fell out and hurt myself real bad. And I had to tell somebody that my man, he grabbed me from the sign. I was like, he grabbed me and stopped me from falling.
Right. So for safety purposes, it makes sense to tell everyone. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I too told everyone. This is Rebecca. Everyone knew. My teachers always knew. Of course, my mom made sure all my teachers knew, but I was never, I'm not sure who said it, but I was never, embarrassed or ashamed. I just wanted people to know so that if it happened, they would know, you don't have to call 911, just call my mother. And so, I don't know, everybody knew.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. We talked about depression and anxiety. I never really suffered those conditions, really. I just was unhappy with the fact that I had seizures and had to deal with it. So I wasn't really ashamed of it. I told people, and I made it a priority to tell, bosses, colleagues that I worked with, people in school, teachers, because there's a safety aspect there, and for parents and kids who are listening, I think that's really important that you do make that clear, because you need to do that for your own safety.
Right.
Yeah, for me, getting it at 18, I actually got it 2 days before I went up to Michigan State. So I was going up there, and I didn't really have any friends that went there with me, so I made sure to tell anybody and everybody, because they were just meeting me for the first time. So I really wanted people to know because, and I really wanted to get it out there because people, a fair majority of people don't even know what happens or know what to do if somebody has a seizure. So I definitely wanted, people to know. I think that's a very important thing.
I was just thinking, I know my seizures are out of control. They used to be out of control more when I was younger. Because thinking, I started at 18, I remember when I graduated and everything, and I came off stage, got my diploma, came off stage, and I had a seizure. Yeah, I remember a couple of helpers from school, they were there. They grabbed me and everything. My mother, father, my family was there, everything. They want to sat down and everything.
Right. So
I think, too, what helped me come out, because my father was always embarrassed about his, and what he would say was to any of us, listen, if you ever develop this, don't you tell a single soul. And that was the vision he had because he was uncomfortable with his epilepsy. But what I learned is when I started coming out, I did it by started working at the Epilepsy Foundation and looking and helping the people. I think the more we get support from each one of us and other people and get strong as advocates together as a group, it helps more of us have a voice and feel free to come out.
Mm-hmm. And I totally agree. As we all know, this is one of those diseases that is still relatively not understood. And I know it's hard, especially if you're a teenager, 13, 14, 15. Typically, you don't think of yourself as an advocate, but you're the public face of epilepsy to other people. And it's really up to you to learn about it yourself, to understand what kind of seizure you have, what different kinds of seizures there are, what to do and not to do. And, I myself, anywhere I go, I absolutely do not hide anything. In fact, I openly tell people I have seizures, and they'll say, oh, really? And then I explain what I've got. I explain what I take. I explain when I was diagnosed, and I'm very unapologetic and I'm very unashamed. Mm-hmm. And to me, to be more calm and just very matter of fact says to them, hey, you know what? You can be calm and matter of fact. And you know what? This isn't something that is shouldn't be so hidden.
Yeah, I agree to that. I think that knowledge is empowering, and it gives you a sense of safety. And I guess I would go further by saying that, the Epilepsy Foundation is here, and there are people like Russ and Cindy that are around to answer so many questions. So use them.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah, and for somebody going to school like myself, there are people at colleges that you can go to, to get help that can, let all the teachers know and can, help get you extra time for exams and things like that. So, for kids in school, there really is help there for you.
Mm-hmm. I can remember when I was in high school and I was someone overheard me telling someone else I had epilepsy, and then later on he came up to me and said, I never knew you had epilepsy. You just tell everyone? Like, he had never told anybody in high school. He was in my same grade, and I'm like, yeah, I tell everybody. And so I think that was refreshing for him. So then he was able to then share it with other people because he felt alone, and I just felt like, well, everybody needs to know it is what it is. So.
Right. Exactly.
And it's surprising when I wear my Epilepsy Foundation shirt outside in public or sweatshirt. I might be out somewhere in the grocery store and somebody will see it, and believe me, somebody will talk to me because they say I have a friend who has it and such. And the more we get out there, the more visible, the more people who really need the support and feel isolated can come and get the support they need and build their self-esteem and be strong.
Mm-hmm. I found it very important that people know because what used to happen to me was people that don't have it, don't understand it. I think they're more afraid than we are.
Yes.
And
right.
Yeah, so what would happen to me, if somebody didn't know, I would end up getting stuff put in my mouth, cutting up my mouth. The intention was good, and they meant well, but I feel it's important to really tell people.
Yes, you are right. Excuse me.
For some people, it's just better to leave. I've told people that, if I do have a seizure, just leave me alone, let it finish, and if people can get out and learn this, they'll understand it. They won't think something's happening here, they'll understand it more. It'll be easier for them.
Well, excuse me, it's good to let someone know, but I'm glad I was my cousin at the time. I remember me and went to the store, and I fell out, and then all of a sudden, I was coming out of the seizure. You was yelling, no, it's my cousin. You have to call the ambulance. They're about to call the ambulance in the store. They had to call the ambulance.
Well, and that points to the thing about why it's important that we support education in the EMS division, in schools and employers. There is, through the national, a movement for the RAISE Act, which is House Resolution, I believe it's 298. I encourage everybody to get involved in those types of issues because we're trying to get a resolution through the House that is for mandatory education in schools, employers, and first responders. so that they understand what they're dealing with and just don't look at seizures broadly. But when you're dealing with epilepsy, look at epilepsy and seizures from epilepsy.
But really, I was thinking, I know when I was younger having seizures, I might have thought negative about things, but as I got older and everything, I ain't let things bother me and everything. Somebody say something about a seizure, I don't look at them, and they're and turn the other way, then they be, oh man, and everything. I throw my hand, forget that person, and go out my business, I'm fine.
Right.
Yeah. And I've definitely found, I think, I would say that this is true. In some of the seizures I've had in public at my former job, I found this generally to be about the case. Of 10 people, probably you'll find 1 or 2 will actively come up and touch you and assist you. Another 2, 3 will stand behind the people that actively assist you. And they're there, but they're not directly doing anything. And then the other 5 basically will ignore it and basically act as if nothing ever happened, or they might say, how are you doing? Are you feeling okay? There's going to be a small minority of the 10 that just will walk by you as if nothing happened. They don't know what to say, and they don't even want to address it.
But really, I was thinking about another thing. My little cousin, a young lady, a few years ago, and then we was over our grandmother's house, our father's mother, and then men walked to the store. I fell out, but the woman in the car, she stopped, and we got in her car, and she just drove us back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah.
Right. So did anyone actually deal with bullying or teasing as a teen because of the epilepsy?
Well, yes, like I said, I was at Cody, see. They trying to get in my way and everything, and I tried, it ain't good, right, but I know good doing, but I know they just got on my nerves. I had to get transferred out of that school, and then I went to Ford, had plenty of friends there and everything, nice and happy and everything, walking around school. Right. People knew me in a second.
Right.
See, I didn't have to deal with any bullying, but I got it when I got older, and I went to a job. That's where I came in because of somebody's not being educated or just plain ignorance. Fired me right on the spot when she found out. I had a 90-day probation, and you go on the probation, and I passed. I got hired, everything. Then when I finally told them, the woman that hired me told me that she actually made me say I'm not normal. And I had a seizure one day, and she took me in, called me in, brought my mother, and told me that all epilepsy people have a smaller brain and aren't capable of thinking like normal people.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she told me that. I was so worked up because I had a seizure, and I was very emotional after it. Well, she told me that and said, go to the unemployment office, tell them you're laid off for lack of work, and I'll give you unemployment. I went to the doctor, got a note that I'm able to work, everything. Well, she would not give in. So when I went to the unemployment, I told them the truth, and then I had filed a lawsuit. Took it to the civil rights, the EEO, everything.
How did that play out?
Who just joined us? Someone just joined us?
That's me, Russ. I got cut off. It's
okay, fine.
So
actually,
it
sounds like kids can be a lot more accepting than adults in many cases.
Oh, yeah. It's the adults that were even today.
Right.
It's the ones, like at work, stress, the first thing you get asked, is stress going to make you where you can't do your job? Well, and even in school, if I had a seizure in school or at work, I was determined to stay to show them that that's not going to interfere. But I'll go home if I have the flu before I'll go home if I have a seizure. because I will not go home. I demand that I stay unless I was injured. And
where I'm working currently, I'm in a call center, and they have an early shift where there's one person working alone that starts at 7 o'clock. Up until about, this week, they were not. I've been there for almost going on 2 years. It'll be 2 years in February. They have not allowed me to be the one that stayed alone, either in the morning or at night, for fear that something would happen, and I understand their concern. And I told them, I said, look, I said, I wasn't mad, but I said, I felt bad for the other workers. I was like, look, I haven't had a seizure in like 2 years, 3 years. The chance that something's going to happen is so slim. And I feel bad. These other people have got to carry the weight of having to get up at 5 a.m. to come in at 7. Finally, I think after a certain period of time, they realized, you know what, nothing's going to happen. And finally, after almost 2 years, they gave in. And when they put me on the schedule for 7 a.m., at first I thought it was a mistake. And I said, hey, did you switch me with somebody? He goes, no. I said, so I'm in for 7. He goes, yes. I said, I put out my hand. I said, thank you.
Yeah, because
I said, thank you.
Did it cause problems with your relationship with your fellow coworkers until then?
No, not at all.
No,
I wasn't. No. They were not resentful at me. In fact, I said to them, I feel bad.
Wow.
Because I can work at 7. I can work until 10. I mean, okay, is it possible I could have a seizure? Yes. But I mean, that was a good educational learning session. You're teaching the public there, despite what the business community thought. This is what in reality, that's interesting. Yeah. And just so you know, Cindy, I would bring the Epilepsy Camp Discovery shirt and the photographs to work with me. And I'd show them. I would. After I was done, I'd bring the shirt with all the signatures on it just to show people, like the day after, my first day back, to say, yeah, this is where I've been. And they were like, oh, that's really cool. Eric, that is, I think, a testimony in itself to what a strong person you are, and such a good, role model and example that, it's good to hear that, definitely.
Okay. So what were some activities as a teen that you were not able to do as a result of your epilepsy, if any? I mean, obviously, driving is one that a lot of people probably had to avoid. So talk about how epilepsy may have interfered with certain social activities, or like dating or playing sports or driving, and then how did that affect you?
Dating, this is Rebecca. One time I was up late, of course, which you shouldn't be, but that's what you do when you're in college and teenager. And after he was dropping me off, I fell and had a seizure. And my mom heard me fall, and she came out or whatever. But I worked with him at the Gap at the time, and he never talked to me again after that.
You're kidding.
Never asked me. It was only our third date. It wasn't like I was planning on marrying the guy. But regardless, that was the first time that I was like, wow, people really have a problem with this.
They do.
That never happened in high school where someone just stops talking to me, even friends or anything. And then that happened again in college.
Oh, no. Too,
where they just stopped talking because they, I guess, just ignorance and just afraid of, I don't know, not being able to take care of me. I'm not sure. That was hard.
Well, I know it was interesting one time when I was dating someone, and we were going out for that night, and we were going out to a bar that had strobe lights, and the person was acting strange the whole night and paranoid, asking me questions the whole night. And finally, when we got home, I said, you were different tonight. What was the problem? And then he admitted that when he had gone to the bathroom, he had saw my pill bottle, and for some reason he asked me, he related it to an anticonvulsant or something, and he was paranoid that the whole time that I was going to have a seizure because we were in a place that had strobe lights and things like that, which I didn't. But it was like, well, yeah, what paranoia is out there, instead of just asking me,
Right.
But people accept, what I find so odd, people accept every condition except epilepsy, it seems like. you're diabetic, you have all kinds of issues if you have arthritis, MS, anything. But as soon as you mention epilepsy, many people just panic.
It's most they don't seem to understand it, or they don't seem to they don't know how to work with you on it. It's something that they have either ignored or they haven't been exposed to in their lives, and so when you bring that up, they know that it's seizures, but they don't even really know what seizures are or how they're caused. And that kind of circles back to our point before in terms of educating people and telling people about the condition.
Oh, yeah, when I tell any boss I have to actually let them know what to do, because the first thing they ask me is, well, can you work and handle stress, and if I'm going to swallow my tongue. I still get that question.
Swallow your tongue. Oh, geez.
Yeah, I said, how can I swallow my tongue when it's connected to me?
Do we use a spoon or a wallet?
Yeah, and should I stick something in your mouth? I get asked those questions. So before even explaining or waiting for those questions, which I hate, I already have the answers right there. I tell them
one of the things I did is I brought in, and I just did this, I think this is just me. Other people may disagree. I just think it makes sense. I brought in a sheet of information briefly explaining what type of seizure I have. Also, one of the things that happens for me, some people in this discussion know me. Cindy knows me, and Russ knows me. But when I have a seizure, I can't talk. I lose all ability to speak. I have aphasia. Mm-hmm. So when people then come up to me and they go, hey, are you okay? What's the matter? Are you all right? Are you all right? I can't even understand what they're saying. So this sheet of information talks about, here's what I've got, and here's what you're going to see, and here's what to do, and here's what not to do. And one of the ones was, do not stick anything in my mouth. Do not do that. I will not. Big letters, I will not swallow my tongue.
Oh, yeah.
That's really smart.
And this gets back to the, educating them. We have great DVDs. The one that right now you can get from the National that is through their marketplace in the free programs is Take Charge of the Facts. That says, and people a lot of times have not witnessed actual seizure activity, and what they see are people acting it on TV, which is over-dramatized, etc. And so they're thinking it's that when they don't see actual footage and don't hear a doctor talking that, hey, listen, this is what you do when someone has a seizure. This is actually what it looks like, and why you need to stay calm. And don't compare it to seizures from people having seizures from an insulin reaction, which is totally different. Right. And I think the DVD, Take Charge of the Facts, I think you only have to pay $3 for shipping right now if you get it, and it would be a way of educating your employer or those fellow coworkers who are interested in seeing it.
And where do you get this?
Through the National Foundation. Right. You go on there and go on to their marketplace and go into free educational programs and DVDs.
On Epilepsy Foundation?
Yeah.
Yes. If you call me in the office tomorrow, myself or Russ, we can direct you to that website, definitely.
Okay. And what is your
all of a sudden they're going to have a rush from Michigan. So
did anyone have effects from epilepsy on school performance? Did anyone have any difficulties in school because of epilepsy or because of side effects from medications? And if so, how are you and your teachers and your family able to help you succeed?
Oh, I definitely did. Because of the drugs that I was on, it was, as Dr. Smith referred to it, putting like a blanket over my head. I had, it was a lot. I had trouble thinking, because I went through all of high school without epilepsy, and I did great. I graduated with like a 3.7 GPA, and then I go up to Michigan State, to study, looking for a teaching degree, and I struggled really bad. My thinking was a lot slower, and my memory had gotten really bad because of the medicine. So eventually I found out that most schools do have advocates there that can help. Like I was able to get time and a half to take my exams, so I had more time, for thinking, so I wasn't rushed. And a lot of times the pressure, of feeling like I got a rush, that could also trigger, a seizure for me. So there are people there that can help you, in whatever way you need it. And that helped me so much.
Right. Andrew, I'm right with you. My seizures came on strong in college, and I was really affected by that. Some by the seizures themselves, but mostly by the side effects or what I was perceiving as the side effects. Just being so fatigued and having trouble waking up for classes and doing the work, and even to a point at a psychological level, and accepting it and being upset about it, sort of becoming apathetic with things that were a priority. Yeah, because, and I guess my concentration shifted away from, athletics and school into being, upset about having this condition, and I struggled with that until, I was able to find, some success or regain my self-identity later. But, it's that fatigue that was sort of side effects that I saw, or side effects from that psychological state that really hurt me in school. And Cindy talked about it earlier, finding the right treatment program. I think it's really, really important that people work hard at finding what works properly, because once you have that down, then things become much easier.
Oh yes, I agree 100% with that.
So what happened where I had started struggling was, well, first when I was in elementary school, I was a very fast learner. I picked up on things so quick. And then I realized in later years, I guess epilepsy had an effect because I had so many seizures. I mean, sometimes about 50 to 100 a month.
Whoa.
And
wow.
And what happened was I realized in my later years that I had trouble when I started going back to when I went to college. Started going to college. I couldn't remember things as well. I comprehend like I used to. And my biggest problem was words, remembering new words and definitions. And I always have, even to this day, I'll keep a dictionary by my side. So if I'm reading, I'll even look at a word and I'm like, I hear this every day, but what does it mean? And it's all just, it's words. But yet I can write it, I can spell it, I can edit things, everything. But and it also gave me where I would get very nervous before doing speech in school, because I would have the seizures so much where you couldn't really notice it if you didn't know me, but I would get that aura, and then if it spread fast, it would go deeper, and then suddenly I can't talk. I know what I want to say, but it won't come out. Or my mouth starts going, but I don't know what I'm saying. And I would get slurred speech. That was very embarrassing, so I would get very nervous. So I let the teacher know. I finally started letting the teachers know. But then, too, I would study for hours, and then I would get in, and I wouldn't remember what I studied for. So I had to get more time. Yeah, I had to get more time. But yet when it came to numbers and mathematical things, no problems. It was all words. And I still struggle with that to this day.
That happens to me.
What was that?
That happens to me a lot.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
With words?
Well, just numbers mostly.
Where you can do numbers or you can't?
Well, I can. It just takes me, they're all jumbled up a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
And do you work with anybody on that?
Yeah, I get extra time. If I see the number 24, rarely it looks like 42.
Have you found improvement now that you've been working? Having extra time on it?
Yes.
Do you feel better about it?
Yeah.
Nice. Good for you.
That's what I needed was extra time, and it helped me a lot. So I'm glad it's helping you too.
Do you have some kind of teacher helper? In the room, man, teacher help in the classroom, help you out with stuff like that.
Yeah. Andrew mentioned those advocates, and they are there, and it's important to use them.
Mhm.
And just even as you get older, you might also find that you do this even as you get older. I'm 34, and I will be taking down a phone number, and they'll say 4378, and I'll do 4387. And I'll read it, but I'll catch it. I'll realize I did it. But at the time, I won't realize I did it. What I'm also starting to find as I'm getting older, and boy, this is starting to annoy me, is I will, rather than doing the first word and then space and then the second word, I'm doing first word, first letter of the second word, space, and then the second letter.
What do you mean?
Well, like I'll be typing, and I'll go to do the cat. And rather than doing the space cat, I'll do the C space AT. So I'll put the space in the wrong place. Like I'm transposing the C and the space. And I'm noticing I'm starting to do that now. But then again, it may simply because I'm getting old. It may have nothing to do with seizures.
So what are some... Go ahead.
I remember when I was taking tests, I went undiagnosed through high school, and I was getting deja vu when I was taking the test, and my joke was, why when I was getting deja vu doing these tests, why didn't it always give me the right answers? Yeah. Okay. I mean, I took my ACT, and I think I got in the bottom 3%. And then years later, I look back and I go, well, no wonder you were having seizures at that time. And, that was something that self-esteem-wise I struggled with for a long time until I realized it wasn't a reflection of my intelligence. I think that we're all in pretty good company if we look through the history of a lot of the people before us that had it, and you think of the medication they were on, and now they've made so much improvements on the medication we're on. If they could do it on the medication, they were on, some of the things they accomplished, we're doing okay, and we can't blame, we can't let it affect our self-esteem because it is only a neurological problem.
Because there's a man out there in the NFL making millions who's having seizures.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I found having epilepsy and knowing the feelings of not being able to remember and things like that has helped me. I'm very patient and know how to train people very well because of knowing that. And I can do it. I always say, do you have a computer chip in your brain, or are you a hands-on person who has to do it repetitively? That's the first thing I ask. And I said, because I'm not. And so it makes people feel more at ease. And, that's just one of the first things I know. And then another thing that was really helped me was my father-in-law had dementia and couldn't express himself. And the family would call me in and say, Juanita, get in here. You're the only one that understands him. Yeah. Well, I was able to communicate with him because I knew that he tried to talk but couldn't express himself. So that's what helped me know how he felt and how to communicate with him.
Well, let's talk a little bit about parents and what role your parents played in how they were helpful, then also how they may have gotten in the way of things. Obviously, one thing that we hear a lot about is parents being overprotective or being overly concerned about your safety and then maybe restricting your activities unnecessarily, which can affect your self-confidence. But at the same time, parents can be a huge source of support. So can you talk about what were the helpful things that your parents did and what were the things that weren't so helpful?
I like that transition.
If my mom would have said one more time, Rebecca, did you take your medication? I mean, all she had to say was, Rebecca, and all my siblings would say, did you take your medication?
I think all mothers are the same.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But, Rebecca, my husband still asks me.
I'm surprised my husband, he just knows how annoyed I was, so that's probably why he doesn't do it. But I think overall my mom was a great advocate for me and certainly helped me to gain back self-esteem once, because you kind of lose some of that along the way. But I thought she was, other than that, I mean, she just called on the other line, and I just had to laugh because I thought, well, she's not calling for that, is she?
When I met my husband, I was just shocked. I was totally stunned. It turned out he happened to have epilepsy too, by coincidence.
Wow.
And it was just coincidence. I had no idea. And so my mother, they never asked me. I mean, I was on my own, so it was good. And then, too, it's not good because they really didn't watch over me. I could go swimming by myself. I could do everything. So that's not good. But I didn't think of it. I really didn't care because I got to do what I wanted. So I come home. Here's what shocks me. I come by my husband, and I hear his mother, to this day, did you take your pills? I'm like, what in the world? I said, is she asking you these questions for? I said, you're a big boy. And I said, take your pills, because that's what I had to do. But it's just being a mother. And his father did the same thing. Did you take your pills? I'm looking at him like, what the heck's the matter with you that you have to be reminded by your parents?
Yeah. But they're doing it out of love. They're doing it out of love.
Exactly. But I didn't realize that at the time because nobody did that to me. So I thought something was wrong with them.
I think that my parents were, I had a doctor by the name of Robert Laurie, who was old. At the time I was seeing him, he was ready to retire. He worked out at St. Joe's in Ann Arbor. And, MRIs were relatively new technology for him. So he was kind of old school. But I think he sat them down and talked to them very carefully and said, okay, look, please do not be overly protective. I mean, obviously you want to watch and make sure he's not doing something that's overly dangerous for somebody with a condition like this. But don't, I'm guessing this is what happened, or it was just the way my parents were. But my parents were very, yes, did you take your pills? Okay, fine. Did you have a seizure today at work, at school? No. Okay, that's good. Okay, well, go do your homework. I mean, they were very matter of fact about it. And obviously it mattered to them, and they were concerned. And the first 3-4 months when I was going from medication to medication, my dad and I kept of course, my dad's an engineer, so that explains that. He kept a graph, and it showed from the time this all began, from the time we first started seeing the doctor. My mom would say, "Did you have any seizures today?" And when I was on that land, I was having like 3 a day. So he would he then went to chart paper and charted it all out. Well, it was fascinating because what it showed was the medications I'm on right now at the age of 44, it turns out that I was on this same combination of Tegretol and phenobarbital at the age of like 13. Well, that was because I was switching from phenobarbital to Tegretol, and I was switching over from one to the other, and my seizures dropped down to 0. And my dad remembered that.
Wow.
But and then only years later, after I'd been on Tegretol, I'd been on Depakote, he went, I think I remember from that graph, didn't they drop 0 at one point? And he remembered it, not me. And no, my parents were really, really good about it. Really, I'm not being critical. It's really more my wife now. It's kind of overly protective.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I actually
my family encouraged me. I have this sort of 15-minute self-imposed rule that I have. I have seizures when I wake up, so when I wake up in the morning, I just read the newspaper or flip on the TV for a little bit to make sure that 15 minutes pass, and I'm not in the shower when I have a seizure or walking around on tiled floor. I'm sitting on the couch, sort of in a safe position should I have a seizure. I'm well controlled, but in that that slight possibility that I would, I'm in a good position to do that, and that encouragement from my family was really helpful in doing that. Good peace of mind.
Why do you have to sit for 15 minutes?
When I wake up, the only time I've had seizures were like right after waking up. So if I know then that's the only time I'm having seizures, then I might as well just put myself in a safe position should I have a seizure.
Right.
Because the worst thing in my mind that I could see happening would be, being in a shower or walking downstairs or, even worse, being in the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where I would be in danger and I would be putting other people in danger.
When you're talking about safety, a thing that I learned is I work in an office, and through the years, I would have seizures constantly, but I never got hurt. I would have them in school, and I would flip back, and the desk would fall on top of me, and I never got hurt. Yeah. But I happened to get a chair one time, and I had a seizure, and that's when I got a closed head injury. And it turns out that the chair did not have arms. It was one of those swinging chairs at a desk. Yeah. So it turns out the only thing I can come to a conclusion on was all those years I never got hurt after falling is the arm broke the fall. Where this way, I went straight and crashed right into the floor.
Huh.
I had nothing to break the fall, because when your head hits that unmoving object, it injures you inside.
Yeah.
Where a moving object's going to just crack your head open.
It's sort of like life is a learning process. We sort of figure out what works for us and what doesn't, and we mold our lives around that to live very effective and normal life despite it.
I really wish. I'm sure it's annoying that you have yours in the morning. The thing with me is that I almost never know when it's going to happen. What I do know is that they generally happen after 12. So I have front-loaded my medication to morning and afternoons. Other than that, I don't have a specific trigger. I wish I did.
Oh yeah.
I wish I knew that if I drank a certain beverage, or if I had a certain food, or if I lacked sleep, every time that would do it. I wish it was that simple.
You don't
and
get
I
an
don't. Well, yeah, kind of. But usually I don't know it until after the fact, and then I'll be like, you know what? I was acting all weird earlier, and something didn't seem right. But I didn't realize it until now. And now I'm like, oh yeah, like about 2 hours before. Okay, yeah, okay. Something was weird, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was. The whole deja vu thing.
Yeah.
And something's just not right, and the day is just weird, but you don't know why. And then 3 hours later, you have a seizure. And then you're like, oh, that's what it was. That's what that feeling was.
You know what I did? I'm sorry.
Really, I can tell seizures coming on. I might blink or something like that. I have a vagus nerve stimulator to take care of things. I stop it myself. I can tell they come out and start blinking, anything like that. As a matter of fact, when I was young, I used to go to the theater a lot. I have a seizure in there, and I know it's a bright light hitting me in my eye would trigger one, blinking lights, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. See, I would do it if I look down a certain type of street, which is really weird, and I get this weird feeling in my throat, like an aura. And so when I was a kid, I didn't want anybody to see because I would feel like deja vu and nausea, all kinds of stuff. Now, I learned a little trick. It's really weird. Is if I happen to be looking at a specific thing while I felt it coming on, and I kept staring because I'd go into a staring spell, it got worse. And it was kind of like I was concentrating. Oh, I'm going to have a seizure. I'm going to have a seizure. and that feeling would get deeper. So what I started doing was I would move my eyes all different directions, move my head, put a certain vibration in my throat, change all those feelings that were going on, because it was kind of like the more I let that feeling go, it would sink in, and I'd go into a seizure. So I would start doing all this other stuff, and it would distract. It's like it distracted me. It distracted my brain, and I wouldn't have it.
Right.
So I tested my. Pardon?
Yeah, a lot of people can develop their own kind of ways for fending off seizures when they have an aura.
I tried it when I was about maybe 11 or 12, and I said maybe it's a coincidence. So one time I was starting to feel it, and I didn't do that. I just concentrated, I'm going to have it, and I had it. So I started doing those little tricks, but if it spreads too fast, then there was nothing I could do. But if it was coming on slow, I could stop it.
I think it's important for us to really take the time to understand ourselves so that we get used to our bodies and what's going on with us in terms of our medical condition, so that we get to a point where we're treating ourselves medically just as much as our physicians are treating us, and so we can have two layers of treatment as opposed to just one, just that pharmaceutical level.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And doctors learn from the patients too.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think too is not ignoring some of those feelings that you're getting and saying, well, I think I can fight this off, or ignore it off, and learning those adaptive techniques and using them. I think without, also getting too anxiety-ridden that, is this what it's going to be or is it not what it's going to be, and is it going to progress any further? Learning to relax, and some have some trust in the medication too, but also trying to control that stress. How much of that stress are you self-inducing also, and what can you do about it?
Yeah, because the more I would think it was going to happen, then the more it would come on stronger and stronger.
Yes.
This is Quinn's mom.
Go ahead.
What I noticed with Quinn, and not so much, not every seizure that he's had in his lifetime, but I would notice after a while, he would be super hyperactive, like his hyperactivity level was through the roof, like the day before, and then he would wake up, and he has his seizures probably 99% of the time first thing upon waking, and then it was kind of after like the third or fourth time I noticed he was very hyper the day before. Is that something that any of you have ever experienced, or
no? I haven't.
Well, I have seizures, in the morning, waking up just like your son. But I think that I don't have anything similar to him in terms of the previous day being hyper. Yeah. But what I've learned to do is build my own treatment program around that, what my doctor has worked with me on in terms of the drugs that I'm taking, knowing that in the morning I need to be very careful about what I'm doing. I have dogs, so in the morning when I let them out, I need to make sure, where I'm living, I'm on the first floor. I can't be walking downstairs. That, when I wake up, sit on the couch, and carpeted floor. If I fall over, then I'll be safe. And so all of those things and understanding, it's difficult for a kid to grasp all that, but once he communicates through you, perhaps, or he'll understand it as he grows, then, he'll be able to grasp what it is that happens.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do. There are a lot of reports of people having these premonitory symptoms. Basically, there's auras that occur seconds before a seizure, but then there's also, in some cases, these things that can happen up to a day before a seizure. Just feeling off, or feeling, or getting headaches, or feeling irritable, or just kind of things not feeling right, and hyperactivity maybe could be one example of that type of thing. So if you notice that there's a tendency for, if he's acting just kind of differently, then you can kind of take some precautions and try and reduce any exposure to triggers or things that might bring on a seizure.
Right.
Or sometimes, and sometimes if there's anything that you can do that might interrupt that, if it's symptoms that he's having that he can't communicate why he's feeling this way, and it's coming out as behavioral activity, hyperactivity for his way of dealing with it. I don't know if any behavioral modification, distraction, all these types of things, and relaxation techniques, if you can with a child, I don't know.
Right.
And, and looking at those ways of doing it and seeing what works. I know when I'm at camp and I had a kid that was having some issues with some partials, I used distraction and started talking to him about other things. Right. And after a while, things that he really enjoyed. And after a while, it was a non-issue, and he was fine. And, well, can I go to the campfire? Sure, you can come to the campfire. And nothing else happened. But you knew that.
It's like what I did. Don't concentrate on it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry to sign off. This is Rebecca, but I need to go put my babies to bed.
Okay. Thank you so much for your
nice
participation.
To talk, everyone.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Gotta run.
Bye.
All right, take care.
Nice speaking to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. And it is 7:45 or getting close to 7:45, so we should wrap things up. But I wanted to make sure if anyone has any last questions or comments, now would be the time to make them.
I'd like to know because I go on a lot of travel, and I've been trying to find a medical emergency bracelet because I don't wear one since I've been so long without one. Where do I get one of those?
We can get you information on that. We have brochures on medical bracelets, and I can email you some information on that if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay. I just have fashionable ones because Quinn had one with a basketball on a chain when he was playing basketball. So that was, kind of fun for him to wear.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, I just want one just in case because I'm out of state a lot.
Right.
Good idea.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Russ. This was a very enjoyable learn and share, I think, for me. And thank you, everybody, for participating.
And this is Eric. And lastly, I would just like to say I know that most children and teenagers don't really think much about it, but I know I didn't, so I kind of am talking against my own advice. But I think it is good for them to seek out advice from places like the Epilepsy Foundation or talk to people in a peer-to-peer type of thing where they can get an answer without having their parents all over them about it. And they don't have to be
camp. Right?
What's that?
And attend camp, right?
Yes, and attend camp. And I myself didn't do it, and so I'm kind of saying something I myself didn't do. But I think to learn about it, which again I didn't do, and I kind of wish I had learned more. I didn't really become really truly aware of everything until I was in college. I did everything I was supposed to do. I took my pills, but I just sort of lived my life and kind of ignored it. And I did my tests, and that was fine, and saw my doctor, and that was fine. But I didn't really fully, how do I say it, face it, I guess, until I was in college.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was so used to it, it was no big deal to me because I was so used to it. It's part of my life.
But
I guess that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess emotionally I didn't really face it until I was in my 20s.
I totally agree with you because it happened right when I went to college.
Yeah.
So I am right on the same page with you. As soon as you can, you need to find out about it and really learn, because I wish I would have when I first gotten diagnosed with it.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, my last words of advice, this is Andrew Schmalley, to the parents and kids that are listening, is just to keep a positive attitude. If you believe that life has dealt you a bad hand, then you're going to create this world that's bleak and that's going to appear limited. Kids don't realize at a young age that everybody goes through a significant challenge at some point in their lives. It may not be as obvious or persistent as epilepsy, but it's a fact. So if we're all, we all deal with these challenges, we're all faced with a difficult question of whether or not it's going to limit me or encourage me. So, I guarantee if you strive to find enjoyment and success in life, your limitations will appear less, they'll be less apparent, and epilepsy will be less of a burden.
Right.
This is Janet Wise. I'm a parent of a child with epilepsy, and I just wanted to thank all the panelists. I've just found this so helpful. My daughter turned 15. She was diagnosed at 14, and it's encouraging to hear people speaking as adults who have thrived, who have accepted, it's just tough when you're the parent of the child, because I think more and more neurologists and epileptologists want to get the kid involved and make them as much a part of the treatment plan as possible, and that's kind of a two-edged sword, because my 15-year-old hears that her seizures are not controlled. They're just simple partial seizures, but she still can't drive, so her friends are getting their license. She was a swimmer. The side effects of the medication are worse for her than the seizures themselves. So it's really tough as a parent, because you want them to be as involved as possible, but you also feel like you have to keep kind of boosting their spirits and saying, life's going to go on and there's other things you can do. But at the same time, you see how much their life has truly changed, in the past year. So I guess I'm just kind of making a comment. It's not really a question, but it's nice to hear the people who have said, it was tough at times during high school, and it was tough when you were first diagnosed, but you have kind of risen above, and you found your ways to not necessarily control maybe epilepsy, but to manage it in your life.
Right. That's right.
Right. Well, I'm glad it was helpful.
And for me, getting it when I was 18, having my parents, with me, they still are with me through everything I've gone through. They have been a big help to me. And, I know I couldn't have gotten through a lot of this without my parents. So, parents are very important, and you should know that you are very important to her.
And I would definitely say also that she's going to find out on her own, unfortunately, that there's things that she won't be able to do or careers that she will not be able to pursue, assuming the seizures continue, without you telling her, oh, honey, don't worry about that. You're never going to be able to do that. Just take up a career and whatever. I think she'll figure that out on her own, unfortunately. She's going to have to figure it out, because she just will. I would have, if I could have, I would have been on a nuclear submarine at 18. I love submarines. And I would have gone in the Navy. But I knew walking in the door, I'm like, there's no way they're going to take me. I know it. And they wouldn't. And I can tell you right now, police officer, no. Fireman, no. Military, no. Airline pilot, no. But does that mean that I can't, for example, parachute as a hobby? No, I can do that. Does this mean I cannot snorkel as a hobby? No, I can do that. Can I do it professionally, though? No. I can't be a pilot, unfortunately, or be in the military. But I can do things on my own if I choose to.
And there's other career opportunities available.
Yes. Yeah, there's other things you can do. And you can find pleasure in things you like, maybe not professionally, but as a hobby.
Right.
No, I agree. The thing I find out when I hear from people is they're very afraid about it, that they won't be able to pursue their career. Now that happened to me too, because I got into I wanted a whole different field. I had dreams of what I was going to do, but I couldn't do that because no one was going to take me as a teacher at the time, or doctor, or certain things. But I had to have a positive outlook and was determined, and then things just fell into place, and I got a career where I'm at, and things just worked out for the best.
Sure.
Yes.
So I tried to maintain a positive outlook on everything, that we don't always get what we want, but in the long run, things work out.
Yep.
Right. It's good note to close on there.
Can I just say one thing?
Oh, absolutely,
yeah. Quinn's mom.
Yep.
I was at the neurologist with Quinn when he was 9, and he was diagnosed with infantile spasms when he was first born. I mean, when he had a seizure in his first day of life. And then When he was 9, we were at a neurologist appointment in Chicago where we live, and there was a brochure there, and it said something about children with epilepsy or in epilepsy. And Quinn turns to me and says, "You mean other people have this, Mom?" And it was such like a light bulb for me, like 9 years into this. And that's when I got online and I found the Epilepsy Foundation of Michigan, because I didn't, for some reason, I didn't find the one in Illinois. And that's when I was bound and determined that he was going to go to Camp Discovery and like meet the other children that, you know, and just so I thank you very much for everything you do, because it's helped, you know, Quinn know that, you know, everyone, and like somebody mentioned, everyone has something in their life, like, you know, it could be diabetes or asthma, but, you know, like for him to realize that there are other people and there are people that support him and will support him. It's been wonderful. So thank you, and I really enjoyed listening in for the last hour and a half.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating.
Yeah, you could get a good website also. Got the Epilepsy Foundation of Michigan, and there's the Epilepsy Foundation of America, and they have a community center also where people all throughout the United States communicate with each other.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, on EFA.org.
Okay.
And there's parts for the children too, and teenagers.
Great.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone, for participating, and our panelists for being so open and sharing about their experiences, and we really appreciate it. And what was that?
And their wisdom.
And their words of wisdom, exactly. And we had a small group with us today, but this, like I said, this has been recorded, so hopefully we'll share this with other parents and teens, and people can benefit from this for a long time to come. So thanks, everyone, and if anyone has any follow-up questions, feel free to give us a call tomorrow or later, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
You too. Thank you. Bye.